Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the football betting series here on YouTube Premier League edition. As the calendar ticks over into the month of September, we've started the month in a good fashion with 7 wins, 2 losses and 0 pushes for a monthly profit of £73. When we add that to August data, our overall record stands at 21 wins, 7 losses and 2 pushes and a series profit of £218.49. I've got 3 picks in today's episode, so if you think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Also, please excuse me for a slightly nasally voice. I am under the weather at the time of recording. Without further ado, let's get into it. We kick things off with the Merseyside Derby as first place Liverpool play host to 7th place Everton. And Liverpool, they did it once again. In their game against Burnley, they managed to win the 4th game in the row by scoring in the final 10 minutes of the game. The match was settled by Mo Salah's penalty, but taking a look at the stats, we can see that Liverpool did dominate proceedings throughout. 27 shots to Burnley's 3 and an XG of 2.45 to 0.13, or around 18 times greater than their hosts. In terms of form, it's a perfect start for the year for Liverpool. 4 wins from 4 as they seek their title retention. They host an Everton side who would have felt hard done by with their goalless draw against Aston Villa last time out. The Toffees huffed and puffed but ultimately couldn't make their breakthrough despite their dominance in the game. In terms of form, they're unbeaten in their last 3, and maybe Everton will have hopes of securing a European spot if this form keeps up throughout the season. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the last match between these sides took place in April of 2025. Diogo Jota's goal around the hour mark settled the scores for a 1-0 win for Liverpool. Taking a look at the numbers, this was very much a game in which Liverpool dominated. They held 74% of the ball and just shy of 3 times the amount of XG compared to their opposition. Everton were a tad fortunate to escape with just the 1-0 scoreline. Longer term, things have been a bit more mixed. 1 win apiece and 1 draw in the last 3 Merseyside derbies. However, when we filter by game to Anfield, we can see that Liverpool have won each of the last 4 matches consecutively, and the last time that Everton managed to pick up 3 points at Anfield was in February of 2021. Richarlison and Sigurdsson scored a 2-0 win under then-manager Carlo Ancelotti. My prediction for today's game is going to run a little bit counterintuitively to the statistics. Everton have started off the season in really good fettle, and Liverpool looked weak defensively. As such, I'm looking at both teams to score. Liverpool have seen both teams to score in 2 of their 4 Premier League games so far, and exactly half of home matches to this point. Whereas Everton, they have only seen both teams to score in 1 of their last 4 Premier League games, and in half of their away games. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, only 1 of the last 7 Merseyside derbies has seen both teams to score, and none of the last 5 derbies at Anfield have seen both teams contribute either. There's not masses of statistical supports here. I do like this pick here based on Everton's recent form. Liverpool's defence has been a tad shaky to start the season, and it goes without saying that I have no concerns that they will be able to find the back of the net. All of this pulled together, I will take both teams to score, but thanks to the lack of statistical support, I will back this for just a half stake here in bet number 1. Our second selection sees 17th place Burnley playing host to 15th place Nottingham Forest. And as touched upon in the last selection, Burnley were very close to securing a massive point against Liverpool in their last game. Now, the Clarets didn't offer very much going forwards, but their defence was stout. There was a single moment of misfortune, however, as Frimpong's cross struck the arm of Hannibal to give away a penalty. Mo Salah stepped up to the spot to dispatch and snatch all 3 points for the visitors. In terms of form, it's now back-to-back losses and 3 losses in 4 to start the year for Burnley. It's not great form, but with respect to Burnley, it has been a very difficult start to the year, and they did manage to pick up 3 points against a fellow relegation candidate in Sunderland. They host a Nottingham Forest side who had Ange Postecoglou take charge of his first game against Arsenal. Forest found themselves 1-0 down thanks to a rip snorter of a shot from Martin Zubimendi, as his volley from the edge of the box after a corner kick curved around the flailing goalkeeper to hand the Gunners a 1-0 advantage at half-time. Gyökeres would double the lead 2 minutes into the second period as he tapped home Eze's cross, and then the game was sealed with Zubimendi, who picked up his second and Arsenal's third of the game in the 3-0 win. In terms of form, it's now back-to-back 3-0 losses for Forest and no win in 3. But for me, it's not the form that's the main story here, rather the appointment of Ange Postecoglou after Nuno Espirito Santos did nothing wrong in my opinion. Okay, losing 3-0 to West Ham isn't ideal by any means, but if you're going to save a side from relegation one season to then get them into Europe the next season, you should be allowed the occasional bad result. I think it's a bit of an odd appointment, as Postecoglou's attacking style with a high defensive line is almost the polar opposite to Nuno Espirito Santo's more counter-attacking oriented system. It'll be interesting to see how the Australian gets on, and Forest have a fantastic opportunity against Burnley to work out the kinks of their new system. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the last game between these sides came in May of 2024, when an already relegated Burnley side lost 2-1 against Forest. Chris Wood's double settled the scores in that particular match, and this victory would mean that Forest managed to take 4 points from Burnley across their 2 games, as they did manage to draw 1-1 at the City Ground earlier that year. My prediction for today's game is that starting the prep for this one actually had Nuno Espirito Santo in charge, and I was leaning towards Nottingham Forest, but there are a few factors here that gives me a bit of pause for thought. Firstly, they play Real Betis in Spain in the midweek following this match, so there may be some squad rotation as they have one eye on their Europa League campaign. Also, the managerial shake-up doesn't help in terms of consistency, so I almost walked away from this one. However, Forest were the 3rd best side on the road last year, with only Liverpool and Arsenal doing better than them, and the resilience you need to pick up away points I feel transfers well to the new turbulence created by the managerial change. Man for man, Forest are also the better side, and I think they're going to fancy their chances of returning to winning ways against one of those weaker sides in the Premier League. As such, I will be backing Nottingham Forest to pick up 3 points, but only for a half stake here in bet number 2. Our third and final pick in today's episode sees 18th place West Ham playing host to 8th place Crystal Palace. And West Ham, they may have picked up a win before the international break, but they did return to losing ways once again in their last match against Spurs. The Irons held their own in the first half, and the game really got away from them in the second period. Pat Matasar opened the scoring when he nodded home a cross from a corner, and West Ham's misery would be compounded in the 54th minute as Souček's red card for his out-of-control challenge against João Palhinha had the Hammers down for 10 men to finish off the game. Bergvall would then score for Spurs a few minutes later with his perfectly timed run and header over the goalkeeper Hermansson, and the game would be put beyond all doubt after the hour mark as Van der Ven slotted home for goal number 3, with the final scores ending 3-0 to Spurs. In terms of form, that loss means that West Ham have now lost 3 of their opening 4 games to this season. They have also allowed a league-high 11 goals over that period, and they've looked out of sorts early this season, as Potter may be presiding over a relegation battle this year. They host a Crystal Palace side who drew 0-0 with Sunderland in their last match, and taking a look at the numbers, we can see that this was a much better point for the visitors, as Crystal Palace dominated in every aspect of the game. They managed to force 6 big saves from goalkeeper Rolfs on his way to pick up the Man of the Match award. If the Eagles can replicate that kind of performance again throughout the season, they're going to be just fine. Taking a look at the form, that draw does mean it's an unbeaten start for Crystal Palace in the league this year. Assuming they also don't lose their EFL Cup match to rivals Millwall, Palace would have started the year unbeaten in 8 matches across all competitions. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the last encounter between these sides was in January earlier this year. Mateta scored either side of half-time to pick up a relatively simple 2-0 win for the Eagles. A game in which, when we look at the stats, they did dominate in terms of shots on goal and XG. Okay, West Ham did have more of the ball, but they were unable to really create anything in the match. Longer term, that win for Crystal Palace saw them continue in a record where they are unbeaten against West Ham in 5 of the last 6 Premier League encounters. When we filter by West Ham's home games, we can see that Crystal Palace have won 2 of the last 3, and they're unbeaten in the last 6 head-to-heads. West Ham's last win against the Eagles came in December of 2018, with goal scorers Robert Snodgrass, Chicharito Hernandez, and Felipe Anderson all contributing in a 3-2 win for the Irons. My prediction for today's game is that with West Ham struggling so far this season, and Crystal Palace doing alright and unbeaten to this point, I think they're going to be more confident of picking up at least a point here. Additionally, given their head-to-head record over the last few years, Crystal Palace seem to have an inability to lose at the Olympic Stadium. As such, instead of backing the away side, I'm going to be laying the home side West Ham for a full stake here in bet number 3 and the final bet of today's episode. So there we have it, 3 picks in today's episode, starting off with Liverpool versus Everton. We're taking both teams to score at odds of 1.85, a £25 half stake to return 21.75. Burnley versus Forest next. We're going to be backing the away side at odds of 2.3, a £25 half stake to return 32.50. And wrapping up today's episode, West Ham versus Crystal Palace. We're going to be laying the home side at odds of around 1.45, a £50 full stake to return 22.73. So across the weekend, we're going to be risking £100 to hopefully pick up as much as £76.98. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video and put up with my nasally voice, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. There's no continental picks this weekend as I simply don't have the brain power. But as always, have yourself a lovely day.